Hello and welcome to MII Media Talks. I'm your host Natchi Lazarus, and this is the show where we interview top experts in the Christian media space and talk about topics that are relevant and important for your ministry. Today we are talking about content strategy for the COVID season and beyond. Even we talk about post-COVID content strategy. Today we discuss things like 5 types of content that could help your ministry. We talk about video as an important part of your content strategy and many more practical tips. The expert that we have in house today is Nils Smith. If you don't know who Nils Smith is the chief strategist of social media innovation at Dunham & Company, a global fundraising marketing agency. Before coming to Dunham & Company, Nils worked as an innovation pastor at Community Bible Church in Texas, where he led and pioneered the use of mobile apps, TV apps, and other platforms. And the church now reaches 12,000 people in 400 cities each week. He's the author of 2 books, The Social Media Guide, A Crypto for Good, and he's also the host of the Social Media Church podcast, which I highly recommend. And Nils has a business management degree from Texas State University and holds a master's in ministry leadership from Rockbridge Seminary. Nils lives in New York with his wife Katie and 2 daughters. You are absolutely going to enjoy today's interview. Here is my interview with Nils Smith. Nils, welcome, and thank you for being on Media Talks. It's such a joy and pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be with you, Natchi.
Yeah, and today I want you to talk to us about some of the things that ministry, as a media ministry, as a church leader, what should we be thinking about as we enter this post-COVID season? Because many countries are starting to open up. Some of them are still on lockdown, but they are talking about opening up. And so as ministers, what we need to talk about. But before we actually get on to the topic, I want people to get to know you a little bit. So give us a little bit of your story. How did you, come to where you are and what you're doing? You're doing some incredible things with ministries in a large scale, and you're helping so many of them. So give us a little bit of your background and how you got here.
Yeah, I'll try to give you a quick story here. I got my how I got into social media ministry is when I was 19 years old. It was 1999, and I got my first ministry role as a youth minister at a church in Texas. And I remember a 7th grade girl introduced me to this new thing called AIM. And I had no idea what it was, and it was AOL Instant Messenger, and I became Nils BYX. And so my first day of doing youth ministry, I was introduced to social media, and it's how I did ministry, for the next 10 years of doing youth ministry. Well, that led to just a passion of seeing opportunity. So about 10 years ago, I started onlinechurch.com with a church called Community Bible Church in San Antonio, Texas. And we built a global church. We would have about 100 different countries represented in our worship services every week, and, thousands connected into small groups. And it was a ton of fun. Leaning into Facebook was like the new platform back then. And we built our church essentially on Facebook. And then in the midst of that, I had some great opportunities. My first consulting client was a guy named Nick Vujicic. He has no arms and legs, if you know Life Without Limbs. And I got to journey with him through his beginning of leaning into ministry and just watching. That was my first opportunity to see viral videos and viral moments happen on social media, and kind of steadily built a social media marketing agency. I wrote a book called Social Media Guide for Ministry, and today a lot of my ministry work is through Dunham & Company, which helps ministries do more ministry through fundraising and marketing. And so I'm privileged to work with ministries all over the world and helping them lean into social media and new technologies to accomplish their ministry goals.
Yeah, I have enjoyed working with you and ministering with you while you were here in India, and such a privilege. And thank you for sharing that with all of us. And so let's get into the topic. And specifically, I want to ask you from a content perspective, because I know with social media and digital, you can talk about multiple things. But today, I just want us to focus on content. So from a content strategy perspective, what should ministry leaders and church leaders be thinking about as we get into the post-COVID season? What are some of the foundational things, and then you can build on it however you like?
Yeah, so when I build a content strategy, there's 5 content types that I always lay out, and I think it's important for every organization, even if you're posting in real time, but to have a social media content calendar that you're following, so that you have diversity in your content. And so the 5 types that I always lay out for ministries is inspiration, information, conversation, celebration, and connection. So I'll do it one more time. Inspiration, information, conversation, celebration, connection. And so inspiration, and I always say it should be a minimum of 50% of your content. There's no call to action. It's literally just doing ministry through social media. So that's a video clip with a message, or maybe a music, maybe a quote, maybe a Bible verse, but it's inspiring your audience in some way. On information, there's a call to action. And so I often say you should have no more than 20% of your content should be information. And then the rest should be conversation, which is asking questions and stirring. It's social media. So you want to stir questions. Celebration, you want to celebrate what's important to your community. And then connection, that's kind of behind the scenes or making personal connection. And so from an organizational perspective, those are the content pieces. And so I think as we move into this post-COVID time, I think it's understanding that people are more isolated and lonely than ever, and anxiety is higher than ever. And so as you look at your content balance, the 2 things that I would really lean into is, if you were looking at about 50% inspirational, I would move to 60% inspirational. More inspiration. People need more inspiration. Yeah. They don't need more information in this season. And then the other is conversation. People need more community. They need more interaction. They're craving interaction. And so stir conversations. And so if you were doing maybe 5% of your content being conversations, I would maybe look to move to 10 to 15% of your content being conversations. One of them from a ministry perspective, we find is if you just ask, how can I pray for you? That we see great responses, or, very broad questions of, what's your favorite food? What's your favorite song? What's your favorite movie? Things like that just really start to open people up in a conversation setting.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So those 5 things, we'll have it in the show notes, guys. This is golden stuff. But I just want to dig a little bit deeper into the celebration piece. So when you say celebration, what can you go a little bit deeper, elaborate on that? Help us.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things like holidays. If there's a cultural holiday that is important to your community, but I think, in America, you would celebrate who won the Super Bowl. That's important to pretty much all Americans, or and so as you think about what are those things to your community, but also, your organizational highlights. And so if you accomplished a big goal, and if you're a ministry that, had a big event, you celebrate that and share the impact of that event. Or if you're an organization that accomplished your quarterly goals, you want to celebrate that publicly. And it really, what it communicates to your community is what's important to you as an organization, and it gets them behind what's happened. Because so often we focus on what's in the future, and we don't celebrate what's happened. And I think we need to stop and celebrate it. And you think about what people do individually on social media. They celebrate weddings, they celebrate new births, they celebrate those highlights in their life. And I think we need to do that organizationally as well.
Oh, I love that. I have one more question on the conversation and the celebration piece. Yeah. How much should church leaders and ministry leaders focus on the topic of COVID itself? Like, as we get into a post-COVID season, what has been your experience? When you are strategizing content for some of the ministries that you work with, how much are you focusing on COVID itself? Or do you think it's not something we should just leave behind? Or what is the strategy behind that?
It's that there's a balance here. I would say I would focus, and I've really encouraged focus less on it because they're seeing it everywhere. I think people are wanting a break from it, but you can't ignore it either. You can't pretend like it doesn't exist. And so I think you have to walk that tight line. But I would lean on the side of talking more about things outside of COVID, because all the news is about COVID. All the information is about the economy and things that are, that COVID is affecting. And I think people right now, they need hope. They need inspiration. They need encouragement in their life. And I think you can connect that to COVID in some ways, but I don't think they need more information about COVID. They're getting plenty of that through their news sources.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's an important point to remember, because you don't want to overplay it, but at the same time you don't want to ignore it, because it's a reality and you got to deal
Yes.
with it. And looks like it's going to be with us for a while. I mean, all over
Yes.
they're saying this is not something that will go away
No.
immediately. So that is
Yeah.
also something that all of us can keep in mind when we
Yeah.
create the content strategy. So the other question I wanted to ask you related to this is the format of content. So what has happened with this COVID is it has pushed ministries and churches to think about video content. Even people who have not done video content a lot, who have only done face-to-face, are now starting to do video content because of Zoom and other situations that has come up. Let's say smaller churches or ministries that were only audio based or book based have also started doing video content. So should we keep that going, or what has been your experience with video content? What are some of your suggestions from a video content strategy perspective?
Yeah, I think video is essential. If you weren't doing video before this, you were probably irrelevant before this. If you're not doing video after this, you might as well just not exist on the internet, because it's social media. Even before this, I think 75% of all content consumed on Facebook was video, and that's Facebook. I mean, when you get into Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, it's video, and so the reality is we all have a camera in our pockets. We all have a video editor in our pockets. You don't have to have what my 8-year-old is able to do with my hand-me-down phone is unbelievable. And so I think the excuses are gone, and we have to figure out how to capture video. And I think what I found in, my client, Nick Vujicic, one of the things we found with him is we'll get a whole camera crew and record a video, but when somebody gets out an iPhone and shoots a vertical video with just Nick, it gets twice the views as the professionally polished, camera. And so I think people also crave authenticity. I will say that iPhone video quality is becoming, or just video quality is becoming more important. I think we often just said, just get it out there. But they say a couple things with video, Natchi, is that one, it takes 100 times of making a video to feel comfortable on video. So if you're communicating through video, you got to do it to get better at it. And sometimes you got to do it and throw it away. But that's part of getting to your 100. And then the other is, if you want to get better at video editing, you video edit. You don't just wait until you magically know how to do video editing. You need to just do it. And so I think we've got to throw away any excuses. We've got to start doing video, even if it's not good. Start, and you're going to the only way you're going to get better is by doing it. And the only way you're going to engage on social media is with video.
There you have it, guys. It's important to do videos. So if you've got into it and you're thinking, oh, it is just a COVID thing, after COVID, I can go back to my comfort zone. You don't think like that. This is a great starting point. And I think in a way, God will use this capability that he's given us to do greater things with videos in the days to come. And thanks for that, Nils. And I also want to get your thoughts on short form, what they call as the ephemeral, vanishing video formats, like stories. Would you suggest that that's a good way for people to get used to the whole camera shy thing, because it's anyway going to vanish in 24 hours and you can play around with that? That seems to be one of the strategies. Do you agree with that? Would you suggest that as part of the strategy to leaders and media ministers?
Absolutely. I think vertical video is so important, even with IGTV and Facebook, that people consume it. Actually, Facebook is saying that you get more engagement on vertical video than horizontal video. And so I think it's good to learn how to shoot vertical video. And I often describe Instagram stories and Facebook stories as a micro vlog. So people consider Twitter early days, 140 characters, a micro blog with a B. I see Instagram stories like a micro vlog with a V, because it's little video segments that you can shoot. And so you've got to learn how to communicate in a more consolidated way. But it's a great way to get across a message. And I think people are consuming Instagram stories, and they're even on Facebook, they're more and more engaging in stories, and Facebook is prioritizing it. And now YouTube has engaged, pulled in stories as well to their platform. And so learning how to communicate through the vanishing videos is critically important to the future. That's not going away.
Yeah, and Twitter has launched its stories version.
Oh, I haven't seen that. That's
Yeah, I was
crazy.
just playing around with it this morning. It's incredible. So it's just LinkedIn is already talking about that. So it's just a matter of time before all the channels do the stories. So there you have it, guys, from the expert himself saying, use that as a platform for getting. It's also a great way to get used to creating videos. So that's great. So I just want to, in our last few minutes, I just want to go into one important area before we wrap up, which is content and promotional strategy going together. So there's often there's this discussion saying that the type of content I create has to be something that I can promote. So give us a little bit of insight into what media ministries and churches can do post-COVID when it comes to promotions. Do you have any content strategy that you can share with us saying that promote these kind of content? How are you seeing the promotional advertising space at this point in time during COVID and post-COVID? What are some of your thoughts? What kind of content should we be promoting post-COVID?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I think it depends on your organization and what you're trying to accomplish. I think one reality that we have in this season, and I think it's going to continue, especially as COVID continues, is that social media engagement is way up. More and more people are spending more time on social media, so there's more opportunity for them to see your content. There's also more advertising opportunities for Facebook. In particular to engage that audience. And so I think as you're looking to, you have information that you want to communicate and you want people to take action. I think the reality that existed before and will continue to exist is you really need to spend money to get people to take action. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but I think using boosted posts and using Facebook advertising is really, it's the best bang for your buck that I've ever seen from an advertising perspective. YouTube ads might actually even be the better bang for the buck. They're a little more complicated though. But I would say too, it doesn't mean you can't use organic content to drive action. But I think what people too often try to do with social media is they try to like con people into, clicking a link like, oh, this is an inspirational post, but I've got this little link over here. Well, they're not going to click a random link that just seems like it was thrown in. Have a direct call to action. Be clear. If you're informing people about something that you think is important and they're a part of your community, they're probably going to think it's important too. Where they tune you out is when you just communicate information all the time. So I think when you're posting information, if you've got a good balance of inspiration, conversation, celebration, connection, your information is going to be better received. But when you do communicate information, communicate it clearly and communicate with a clear call to action. So what do you want them to do when they click that link? What should they sign up? Should they read the article? What are you wanting them to do with that action?
Everyone listening should really take a lot of cue from that, having that structure of content and also matching that with the advertising. And I absolutely agree. This is the best time to advertise with so much of inventory, people online. This is one of the good times to take advantage of that situation. So thanks, Nils. And before we close, tell everyone how they can find more about you and all that's going on. How can they learn more from you and your experience and all the work that you're doing? What is the best way for people to connect with you as well?
Yeah, so my website is nilssmith.com, Nils Smith.com. And I'm at Nils Smith on all the social media handles. Would love for you to follow me there. And then I also host a podcast called Social Media Church Podcast, and Natchi is on there as well. So go look for his episode on the Social Media Church Podcast. And so that's where you'll find me online.
Yeah, we will have all of these links on the show notes, guys. And Nils is someone you should follow and constantly learn from. So Nils, once again, on behalf of all of us and MII, thank you for being on the show and sharing all your wisdom. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Natchi.
All right. God bless.